Should be live any second now.
Okay.
All right, I guess we're live. All right, guys, what's up? To another weekly edition, or should I say weekend edition of the cast. And as always, I've got one of my co-hosts here with me, Laura. Say hi, Laura.
Hello.
So, there's a lot of news going on right now about the Activision Blizzard deal and how it's looking like it's going to go through, which most people saw coming. We're going to be talking about that. And of course, we're also going to be talking about the state of gaming and a lot of ups and downs because a lot of people don't trust certain gaming companies with such and such for failures of the past. And I want to talk about that because there seems to be a lot of rinse and repeat when it comes to games that are being either released incomplete or buggy as hell or just way off base or whatever the deal is. There's lots of stuff like that going on, so I want to get into it. And of course, whenever somebody gets in the chat, we're gonna add on to the conversation depending on whatever. So in the background today, I've got some Super Mario Odyssey gameplay, and which is obviously one of the greatest games ever made. And the thing is, Nintendo really never steered too far off base when it came to Mario. When Mario's always a success, and the thing is, like, when Mario, when they set out to do a Mario game, it's pretty apparent that they always ask themselves, okay, what brought us here? What made us so great in the first place? What did players like, and what did they dislike about our previous products and stuff like that, and blah blah blah. So Nintendo looked to their foundation. The developers that developed Mario looked to their foundation when developing the concept of what their next game is going to be, right? That's what they did. They looked at their foundation and they said, okay, this is where we're going to start, and then we're going to build off of here, and we're going to add this, and we're going to do that, and that's it. Because when you look at Mario Odyssey in many ways is like a lot of the previous Mario games, and I'm talking both 2D and 3D alike, combined into one very beefy package, because there's a lot to do in the game. As a matter of fact, the one thing that I praise them as well is that deaths don't matter. I mean, you don't really get penalized for dying, which there's nothing really wrong with that, because for Mario specifically, because again, Mario's not a Souls game. So it's different. It knows what it is. It's not trying to be anything different. And that's what always gets Mario to succeed. I don't see how, like, Zelda does the same thing. I think when games started to go a little too far off base from what made them in the first place is when things started to go south. So change is good. I don't mind change. I don't mind some flavor being sprinkled or whatnot that is similar to another game, but it's gone from just a sprinkle to we're going to dump this entire bucket of sprinkles on our new game, and then that's going to be our new game. And I think that's part of the problem of when it comes to the development of games today. And of course, you've also got the fact that a lot of games, I mean, for instance, PC is the most popular platform, excuse me, the most powerful platform. And yet when you get people that are simply put, how do I put this?
Just say it.
Okay, you know what? Why don't you say it?
Like, like new, like not invested, I guess.
I mean, look, like Mario is about the experience, and the immersion of the game. So that's what makes Mario so unique, right? So all of a sudden now, with with like they don't penalize you for dying, and it doesn't make a difference. So um and Zelda, I mean, granted, Zelda's a different game, but like again, they've always looked to their foundation for inspiration, and that's good. That's why Nintendo still continues to produce good games to this day. Um, and let's not mention the fact that they're being released complete. I mean, you know,
Yeah.
and optimized, because PC again is the most powerful platform, but yet nowadays you got a lot of games coming out that are just not optimized. Now, I'm not a developer, I'm not sure, but it's like, the state of gaming today from both a development standpoint and then obviously the crunch time standpoint is really, I think it's really hurting the games and in the industry in the long run, to be honest, in the long run, because at the end of the day, what are we going to end up producing? I mean, are we going to continue to drop quality until gaming dies or something? It's like, and like about this Activision Blizzard deal right now, Sony is doing everything in its power to stop it, even when they're completely like stating bullshit that they're trying to get the CMA and all those other guys interpreted as fact. They're just doing it because they want to stop the deal or whatnot, despite the fact that, you know, I mean, so Microsoft wants to get into the mobile market and they want to expand Game Pass, right? So when you look at Activision Blizzard King, you're talking about a lot of really good franchises like imagine all the Call of Duty games and then all the Spyro games and the Crash games and the Diablos and more and all that in Game Pass, like immediately, like day one, right there. They're like all there, like they're like the Activision Blizzard catalog right there in Game Pass for subscribers to get access to. I mean, it's going to make Game Pass even more lucrative and even a better deal because the quality is going to increase, and plus you get exclusives that Sony used to have, at least that used to be exclusive to Sony, and then eventually, a couple of franchises here and there, like the remasters, for instance, of Crash and Spyro, would later come on. It would be timed exclusive, and they'd be later coming on to Xbox. But the thing is, Xbox has also has also given a 10-year deal for Nintendo to sign, which they did, to where if the deal goes through, which it will, that Nintendo is going to have access to Call of Duty as well for like 10 years, which was something that wasn't done previously, right? So, and then they've even offered the same deal to PlayStation. It's like, dude, we're not taking away Call of Duty and we're not making it exclusive. It just doesn't make sense. And that's one of the things that Sony's just trying to say is like, no, I mean, look at what they did with Bethesda and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dude, it just doesn't make sense for them to make it exclusive. They'd be shoot themselves in the foot. And they even offered, the same contract or a similar contract that they offered Nintendo. But the thing is, Sony wants to remain quote unquote special, and they don't want to be on an even playing field, especially right now since since Sony's, obviously the one that's ahead. I think Nintendo is at number one, and then Sony's at a close second, and then Microsoft is like at a distant third in terms of where they are in gaming, I believe, or vice versa in terms of where Sony and Nintendo are. And Nintendo is just moving to the beat of their own drum. I can't help, like, despite Nintendo's obviously not perfect. Their weakness is the online component and stuff like that, and obviously their consoles are not as optimized as what Microsoft is doing now and what Sony's doing now. But still, though, the Switch is still a solid console, and you're at least getting 60 frames. I'm sure in some games you might be getting less, but you can still get 60 frames, which is smooth enough for most of their games, because their stuff is not like multiplayer stuff. Their stuff is like a lot of single player stuff, a lot of party games like the Mario parties and the Mario Karts and stuff like that, which are great games. So yeah, so I can't help but admire Nintendo for just sticking to their guns and always just moving to the beat of their own drum and doing whatever their vision is. And that's what keeps them so unique. Like if you look at Sony and Microsoft, there's like a lot of similarities, right? But when you look at Nintendo, it's like there's an obvious difference. Like even when it comes to their games and all that stuff, but every single time a new Mario gets released or a new Zelda gets released, I mean, not only are you getting what you're paying for, but you're getting a complete game. And both of those games are actually long too. Zelda's longer. Mario is still long. Mario Odyssey, I think, is the longest of any other Mario game ever made.
I think so.
Yeah, And when you just like, if you look at the gameplay, it's like, this is like, obviously in some different spots you'll see a few different things, but there's callbacks to the 2D Mario in this game. There's a little bit of Mario 64. There's the new elements that they put into the game. They used Cappy. They invented Cappy, which is Mario's hat. So I mean, well, not Mario's hat, but he wears the hat. But it's not Mario's original hat. It's just, it's
Yeah.
part of the story. But
Yeah.
and the fact that you can turn into, like, as long as you got Cappy, you can like possess like a T-Rex or something like that, and or anything else. So it's like, I mean, sticking to
It's
their
great.
sticking to their guns. I mean, if you think about it, it's like a beefed up Mario 64. Although Mario 64 is Mario 64 in its own right, it's like a beefed up Mario 64. So, and I mean, I don't. It's like every single time um I look at a game the way it should be, Nintendo really hasn't failed. I mean, sure, they've, there's been a few times where they've definitely made a few mistakes, that's for sure. But they all do, and it's like they never fail. I mean, their developers are awesome. I mean, Mario is Mario for a reason. Zelda is Zelda for a reason. Metroid is Metroid for a reason. Donkey Kong is Donkey Kong for a reason. So,
Hmm.
those games are
Yeah.
always celebrated, and it's like in my opinion, like, and this is where I also wanted to get RMD in here, is like, the problem that I believe is going on with games today is that the developers are not having the kind of freedom that they once had. And what I mean by this is that the publishers, the guys that pay the developers and that own the company and everything, and have the final
Right.
say on everything, they dig like way too deep. They involve themselves in the creative process because
Oh yeah,
they only
completely.
understand, money.
Of
Like
course.
they understand money and dollars and stuff like that. And the unique thing that I'm seeing with Microsoft is that the man who's running it, who's running Xbox, which is Phil Spencer, he's a gamer. He plays games. So my thing is, like, if you're going to get executives, I mean, they got to be the right people that are in charge. Like, I believe when everything started out, like when Microsoft wanted to throw themselves into the whole mix with the original Xbox, I'm pretty sure
Hmm.
they talked to people that knew video games in order to get them started. It's like, okay, where do we start? What do we go from here? And blah, blah, blah. Because when you look at the first two generations of what Microsoft did back, back in the day, in the early 2000s, and then in the mid 2000s when the Xbox 360 came out, um, they were inspired by creators and gamers and people that knew what they were doing. That's what I think. And then they basically did it. Um, so
Yeah, it's well, going back to, the end of gaming, the gaming is dying, and these incomplete games coming out, it goes back to, I feel like it's okay, it's like instant gratification for the audience who is buying especially mobile games, but also, like you said, the developers are just like on on the deadline to get these things out, and it's just not, it is not quality. It is not, you
yeah,
know.
like the story, and I keep saying this story, and I'm going to keep saying it. Like with Psychonauts 2, those developers were, I believe, what happened was they were like in the middle of developing or something like that, and then they ran out of money and they had no backing, and then all of a sudden Microsoft stepped in and said, "Here's your funding, and take all the time you need." It was literally
Yeah.
like that, and then, and I'm not trying to like say that because of Microsoft. I'm just simply saying that when that happens, you get a good product. Because if you look at Psychonauts 2, that's a great game.
It is,
Like
yeah. It's
Psychonauts 2
beautiful.
is a great game, and it's beefy. There's plenty to do. There's a story element behind it. The game is made with heart. It looks good. It's not buggy or anything. It released just fine, and it even got nominated for Game of the Year. So
I know.
the problem is that when you have executives that only understand dollars, from the gaming perspective and the creative perspective, the game is more often than not going to suffer. And it shows a lot of times, like, because what they'll do is they'll they'll keep an eye on things and then they'll just interfere. You know,
Of
back in
course.
they just interfere wherever they feel like it. It's like, ooh, maybe we can add this, and you know, we can, you know, nickel and dime people, or we can change this so that way people can pay. It's like, you know, and it's like, it's really really it sucks. I mean, another prime example, when you look at Elden Ring did not have any microtransactions whatsoever.
Right.
It released complete. It's a huge game. Some people say that that game is worth $120 instead of 60, or 140 instead of 70, because
Right.
there's so much to do. The world is absolutely huge. You can play it multiple times. You could play it in multiple different ways, and there's just a shit ton to do. So it's like, and it's up to and the thing is, the freedom is given to the player, which is even better. So it's like, these guys were obviously given time. These guys were obviously given a budget, and guess what? I mean, they've got like, what, 20 million sales at this point, if not close to it.
Um,
So
yeah.
I mean,
You have to
the
let people work,
yeah,
It's just pretty ridiculous
and the
because
problem,
I remember seeing their signs like in the mechanic shop, like I do it $100. You watch me do it $120. You do it, I watch you, $200. You know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, the problem is that the publishers and stuff like that, it's like, we want the money as soon as possible, as opposed to, you know, when it's ready.
Oh
I mean,
yeah.
they want it like now, you know, like, especially if it's like holiday time, it's like,
Oh, forget it. Yeah, they just want it out. They don't care what it looks like. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because when you look at games like Halo Infinite, what happened with Halo was, when it released, it was completely, it lacked a lot of content.
Mm.
Uh, there weren't that many maps. The gameplay was a little off. I mean, when they first showed it off a year prior to its release, people were like, "Oh my gosh!" They were posting memes of it all over the place, and it's like, yeah. And then Microsoft just decided to delay it for a year when it was supposed to come out at launch, um, and just a lot of freaking problems, dude. It's like, and at the same time, it's also about the leadership and the creative side, you know, because you've got the creators, you know, every single position that the creators have in their gaming development studio, um, they've got people that are in charge of like all the categories and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's like, when you go to, you know, those guys that are in charge of that need to know what the hell they're doing, and they need to know their material. And a lot of times right now, what's going on is, people will get hired to do a gaming development job when their area of expertise is not necessarily catered towards that. So it's
Oh
like,
yeah, all the time.
you're hiring the wrong people for the wrong game. And when that happens, it's usually a recipe for disaster. But, like, for instance, in one of the greatest fighting games of all time, Killer Instinct, 2013 and then 2014 through 2017, they had to change developers after they got bought out by Amazon. So the guys that originally worked
Mhm.
on Killer Instinct couldn't work on it anymore. So what they did was, like, the final month before they left, they like got all the guys, their studio, up to speed on what's going on. They went through training and stuff like that. To I don't know if it was a month, or I don't know if it was more than that. I'm not sure, but yeah, they had to be brought up to speed before anything else. And thankfully,
Mhm.
though, they got minimal to no interference from the executives side of that point. And I think it was also because it was underestimated. And lo and behold, Killer Instinct, a lot of people will regard as like one of the greatest fighting games ever, not just because of its fighting mechanics and all that stuff, but the online component was really, really good. You can even still find players to this day, as a matter of fact, even though the game's pretty old. I believe people still compete at it professionally, if I'm not mistaken. And it was a callback from the 1995 Killer Instinct game that was out on the Super Nintendo, and that was also out on the in the arcades and stuff. So, and by the way, in the Super Nintendo, the cartridge was black, so that was cool.
Hmm.
Um, so basically, like the problem starts with a lot of developers that like, and the funny thing is there are certain developers that are like really good at what they do, like Sony Santa Monica with God of War. I am willing to, well, I'm not a gambler, but I'm willing to say that the studio hardly interferes with them at all because they know for certain that what they're going to produce is top of the line.
Oh yeah,
Um,
it's a moneymaker. Yeah,
yeah,
they know for sure.
just just
It's a
just to
sure
name
thing.
an example. Uh, and then sooner or later, sometimes even those games will start to get squeezed. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think developers and publishers, I think in certain cases, depending on like I don't know, like maybe when they acquired them in the first place, maybe there's something in their contract that says, we can only reach so far, as opposed to we can do whatever we want when we want. So I think that's something that plays a role as well. And uh, I I think the problem with a lot of the games that are struggling today, not just ones that are released incomplete, not just and granted this happens with multiplayer games mostly more than anything as well, is that there are people that are just digging their hands too deep into the art that are not supposed to be.
I was just about to say that. You read my mind. Yeah,
Yeah, that's not, they can,
always.
it's like leave the creative process alone. Now, if your developers run out of ideas, or if your developers ask that you give your input and feedback and implement that, that's one thing. But it's like it's a whole other game to walk into their office numerous times and just look at what they're making, and then all of a sudden it's like, you tell the studio head like, hey, uh, we're gonna need you to create a battle pass for this because we want to, all this stuff right here. We want to charge people extra bucks for it. Now, if they're
Exactly.
if they're
You're
cosmetic,
gonna
if
stay
they're cosmetic only, then that's fine. But with that being said, uh, it's like, again, looking at a game like Elden Ring, it didn't do any of that,
there.
and
Right.
including new players praised it. You're talking 20 million copies, if not close to that. So it's nothing to laugh at. And guys like, for instance, Rockstar, basically the guys that make Grand Theft Auto,
Hmm.
Rockstar, you know, Sony Santa Monica, probably NetherRealm as well. Um, I think the executives don't poke as much as some other corporate executives might. I mean, I could be wrong, but there might be also something to where like um like when NetherRealm sold to Warner Brothers, I believe it was. I'm sure Ed Boon had set up something to where it's like, yeah, you guys have this, but you can only reach so far. So
Right.
because in Mortal Kombat X, I think it was Mortal Kombat X, they had microtransactions, and then in Mortal Kombat 11, there were no microtransactions. They did an interview with Ed Boon. He's like, are there going to be loot boxes or microtransactions in this game? And he said, no, there's not. And the guy just said, thank you. And then Ed Boon just started cracking up. So, um, so it's like, and Ed Boon doesn't own, like like I don't, he's still the co-creator, and but the thing is, I don't know if he sold the rights or anything like that, or I don't know. But his studio is got bought by Warner Brothers, so um,
Mm.
maybe he still has some pull or whatever it is, due to his position, and maybe there was a clause in the contract that basically said, at the end of the day, Ed Boon gets the final decision on such and such. I don't know, maybe, but
Mm.
um, but it's amazing though, and a lot of people were bitching about it. They weren't happy with the whole microtransactions and shit like that, and or the loot boxes or whatever. And granted, they also became illegal after a while, um, but yeah, they even got asked, is there going to be some sort of loot box, some sort of battle pass microtransactions? He's like, nope, there's not. So instead, what they did was they sold DLC for a pretty good price, but you definitely got what you pay for. You got basically an extended story mode and a whole bunch of plethora of characters. So, like, do not you can't underestimate the creative process when it comes to making games, and nor should you interfere. So, uh, like as a casual that you are, don't you think like
Mm.
it's like how do you what needs to happen in order for things to get better? I mean, that's the big question. What needs to
Yeah,
happen?
I mean, I definitely would like corporate to be hands off of developers. Just as a designer myself, it's really hinders the creative process, absolutely. And like somebody watching you work, it's just not productive. And I guess I have like some insight on it, just being a graphic designer, but also, being a casual gamer, yeah, it does like I don't want an incomplete game because I do finish games. you know?
So what you're saying is, let's say a person who is essentially your boss, but at the same time knows nothing about art, nothing about the creative process, and all they know is money, and they're watching you work and they're giving you orders on what you should and shouldn't do. Like, is that what you mean?
Oh yeah, absolutely. This is just ridiculous. Like, um, because yeah, like okay, your input is welcome, but also like you shouldn't just be standing there like telling me X, Y, and Z needs to happen every day. Like just give me the order, open it up, and yes, like these points I will get to. Like, give me a break. Uh no, I've been in that position. It sucks.
Um, because in my eyes, what I keep seeing is like, nobody wants these $70 games, like the quality to go down, and
No.
you've got a decent amount of games that have kind of been disappointing. So it's like everybody's trying to rip off a system that one really successful game financially had implemented, and in the process of that implementation, it's like the quality of the game drops, and the number one area of focus is on
I know, aren't they seeing that what they're doing is not reaping the benefits that they think, their results, like it's not happening.
yeah. uh I don't know, but I do commend Microsoft though. Like, those guys, they want to be everywhere, and Nintendo is just, those guys are just doing what they do. I mean, they also sell very well for handheld products. How many have you had
Mm.
multiple Nintendo handhelds?
Uh, trying to think. Yeah, I think so, right? Mm. Uh, Game Boy, right? That's Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to remember. Well, I think maybe that was it for the handhelds because I always played um Nintendo at my sister's house or at my friend Jamal's house. I didn't have my own system until I was in junior high. My sister moved and gave me hers.
What was it?
So, um, the NES,
Okay.
yeah, and yeah. So yeah, I didn't have like I think yeah, like the Game Boy was the only handheld. But I was like addicted to that shit.
Yeah. Nintendo sells more handhelds than anybody else. I mean, even back when
I was
Sony had
thinking
theirs.
about I was thinking about getting a Switch, but I don't know. I mean, I have like other handheld things. I have, I have my tablet and my phone, so I don't really have like a big need for it, So
Yeah, you'd essentially be spending all that money for
just like
for
another
for possibly
toy.
playing a few games,
Yeah, so
but you still have to pay for those games.
yeah, exactly. So I was thinking about getting it like last year to play with my nieces and nephews, but um yeah, it just kind of like faded away. They're on to other things. So
Um, which version? Like the OLED one, the one that's just portable, or the original Switch that
the
you can
one
just plug into your TV?
the one that's streamable, I think the one that's 600, I don't remember, honestly. I'm too casual to remember those details.
Okay.
I swear. Yeah.
Um,
But oh, go
so
ahead.
Nintendo consoles are known to have gimmicks. Like the Switch had a gimmick and the Wii a little bit.
Right.
So
Yeah.
and the Switch to a certain extent as well. What do you think Nintendo's going to do next? You think they're going to do like a Switch 2 or a Super Switch and
I
just kind of make it more powerful, or do you think they're going to do a whole new gimmick?
I don't know. I think everybody's doing VR, right? Those headsets. I don't know. That might be a thing with
Sony is, but Microsoft's not yet.
yeah, I don't know. That might be something, especially with Nintendo and Pokemon. I'd be pretty excited for that.
So you're a Pokemon fan?
Oh, I'm a big Pokemon person, yeah. Um, I don't play Pokemon Go anymore, but um, I still have my cards from back in the day, in, in junior high. Um, I love the TV shows, I love the movies, and my nieces and nephews, they love it too. It's like kind of become a family tradition, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They still play. Even my 20-year-old nephew, he still plays Pokemon Go.
Okay.
You gotta get those legendaries.
Why does it say upcoming? My goodness.
Jack, I need a bathroom break if you can fill in.
Do your thing.
Thanks.
But yeah, I really can't help but wonder. I really can't help but wonder. As I'm looking at this gameplay here and I'm like, this game is genius. Like Mario Odyssey is a genius. I hope that Activision Blizzard deal goes through really quick, so that way, by the time these events start showing up in like June, July, or whatnot, the showcases, it's like, oh, by the way, all of Activision Blizzard catalogs available on Game Pass right now. It's like, damn. And I'm looking at this and it's like, look at that 2D Mario right there in a 3D game. Genius.
Okay. Hello.
Welcome back. For some reason on
Oh,
my
thank you.
for some reason on the main page it says that you know the stream is upcoming and it's like, but I'm live. So it's like, huh.
Oh, well, let me see. Hmm.
I mean, if you were to
Interesting.
click on it, it would bring you here, but it's like there should be a red
Hmm.
live button or whatnot that shows that we're live, as opposed to upcoming.
Oh, yeah, that's weird.
That is weird.
Huh. Alrighty. Oh, yeah, I had a big salad, so that happened.
Nice.
Anyway, so, yeah, Pokemon. Big fan. I played Pokemon Blue and Pokemon Moon on, Game Boy, and, there's a glitch in Pokemon Moon
Mm-hmm.
when you go into the garden world. There's a hedge that you can go up against, and you can go into a different room, and it kind of glitches out and looks purple.
Okay.
So yeah, um, there are a couple little hidden things, Easter eggs. Um, but yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
it's a good time. Very old school.
Yeah, I remember being in eighth grade, and when Pokemon Stadium came out for the N64, it's like every kid had it,
Yep.
and on their Game Boys, they certainly had it. Like they had like
Hmm.
Pokemon Diamond, Pokemon Blue, Pokemon. It's like, really?
Sun and Moon and Diamond and yep, and there's so many.
Wow.
But yeah, definitely a very wholesome anime. You know,
Yeah,
love Ash.
anime's really popular with people. I just never really got into it.
Mm.
I don't fully
Very good
get.
stories. Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I never really got into Dragon Ball Z either, and everybody seems to be
Yeah, yeah, I have friends who are very into Dragon Ball Z. I never really got into it. Um, but very good fight scenes, very good artwork.
Yeah.
And there's a card game too.
Oh, like Dungeons and Dragons or something?
Um, I think like more like Pokemon. Like they have or like Magic the Gathering. Yeah. So yeah, very interesting. Um, it's like a whole world. Um, yeah. So what else is on the agenda, Jack?
You know, at this point, I don't know. I'm just kind of stuck on
Mm,
the whole like where should gaming head? Like what direction we should head in, and it's like why are a lot of games just like I don't know. Like a part of me, I mean, I'm glad that Nintendo is doing what they're doing, and I'm glad they're like different and everything like that. Because at the end of the day, I'm like I don't know, man. Sometimes I'm just thinking like certain franchises are just digging themselves in a hole in the direction that they're going, and while it may not kill gaming in general, it's gonna put a big hole in it. At least that's what I'm thinking. Because
mm,
but the funny thing is though is that certain people will still buy a franchise even though they know a lot of stuff that's going on behind the scenes that's not right. So it's like, why would you,
yeah.
like for instance, buy, you know, why would you buy a certain game that is programmed to be rigged and that interferes with your connection on the fly if you're too good or if, so,
Mm,
and among other things that it does. So it's like, why would people still buy that? Including people that, including people that know about it. I don't know.
right.
I, I literally,
Yeah.
I literally don't
Like
understand that.
is it just like a challenge to try to beat it
No,
even though it's rigged?
no, it's rigged. There's nothing you can do about it.
Or is it just branding? Like I have to have it because it's part of this franchise and
I'm sure there are some people like that, but that's like a very small percentage of the entire player base.
okay.
That's a very small percentage.
Mhm.
And well, but the thing is, the majority of people um, that are in any player base are just they don't know any better. They don't know about such and such thing going on.
Mhm.
So they just keep going and they just keep buying regardless. And
Mm.
they're actually the ones that are more likely to spend money on microtransactions.
Yeah,
The
true.
the casuals of the casual are the ones that are gonna spend that kind of money or whatnot because for them it's enough. For them it's enough getting whatever it is that they're getting. For them it's enough to you know just play for like
Yeah,
an
they don't
hour
need
and then that's it.
yeah, they don't need to be challenged. Yeah.
Nope.
Got it.
But at the same time, your biggest fan base, even though they're the minor, it's like they're paying for that. And the thing is,
Mhm.
it's like the majority of players are not really that good. So it's like you're really gonna punish the small number of people that are actually good. I mean, are we that much of a negative influence to the space? It's like doesn't make sense. At least to me, it doesn't make sense. But
Mm. Yeah. 'Cause I'm, obviously like really casual, but like on a Sunday, I'll play Elder Scrolls Legends for like maybe 3 hours or 4 hours, you know, just to like relax and zone out. Because it's a very like aesthetically pleasing game, honestly. Um, But yeah, some people just like can't, I guess because it's such a casual game, like sometimes I win just because I'm playing for so long with one person. Like they just give up. Like I don't know. But yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, that's part of the problem is that a lot of, like when you're talking about like a multiplayer setting, like a lot of the newbies, they'll give up and then they're like if they get their butts whooped, they're like, they won't play for the rest of that day or they'll play less, and it's like that's when it comes to
I
the whole
know.
money thing, that's like a problem.
It sucks, yeah. Because I'm like, sometimes it takes me a while to get matched with a player. I'll wait like, it'll estimate my wait time for like 2 minutes, but it'll be like 5 minutes or sometimes even 10 minutes. And, I'll get matched with somebody. And I get good players. But sometimes, I'll get a good player and they'll just get like bored,
Hmm.
because I'll be playing for a long time. And, because my deck is like, my deck is like stacked,
Right.
you know, and I'm playing for a long time, playing for a long time, and then all of a sudden they just like leave.
Right.
Yeah,
No, I get it.
so it's a bummer.
I get what you're saying,
Yeah,
and it
it's a
sucks,
bum.
and it sucks too because it's like all
And
these
then it's
things.
like, how are you ever gonna get better? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's that stuff never really needed to be implemented in the first place. And the thing is, I think more and more games are doing that behind the scenes, and it's like what's next, It's single player games have like the optional difficulty setting and that's fine, but multiplayer games now they got all sorts of other shit going on. And the thing is there's more and more people cheating, honestly. There's no
Yeah.
anti-cheat, people are using Cronus Zens or they're using hacks or whatever it is. A lot of people are cheating. And that's a huge problem, in my opinion.
Yeah, true. Very true.
And it's like and a lot of and a lot of publishers are just not doing anything about it,
Hmm.
and which is heartbreaking because like they should be.
Yeah, because it's just gonna drive people who are like looking for quality games out, and you're just gonna be stuck with all these people who are like, of that generation who got their participation trophy, like
Hmm.
just being rewarded for nothing.
Yeah,
I don't know.
a lot of people in this generation just get their butts handed to them. They just quit a lot and they don't play again,
Yeah,
or they won't play for a
yeah,
while.
yeah. It's a shame.
Yeah,
I don't know.
man, I am just exhausted today. Holy moly,
No.
I haven't slept very much.
Mm.
And RMD's not here, and he's usually like his voice, is he can kind of wake you up, But damn,
Yeah. Aw. Well, nothing wrong with calling a early night, every
yeah.
once in a while.
Plus my video is still not showing up as live, which is weird, but who knows why? I don't know. We'll see.
Hmm.
All right,
Yeah.
let's just call it tonight. And
Yeah, sure.
what I'll do is we'll make it like beefier the next couple sessions or whatnot because
Yeah,
I need a nap.
yeah,
I need a nap.
yeah. I actually took a nap before the podcast, and I still feel like I could go to sleep for 8 hours.
Yeah. All
Yeah.
right. All right. So we'll just continue on with this tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. You have a good night and thank you for joining me.
Up. Good night.
Night night.